how will it scale? Well, the computation of the behavior of the citizens is actually not that complicated, at least yet, and it doesn't have to be done that often. For example, you only have to update what a citizen does like every 10 in-game minutes. What's actually much more challenging and difficult performance-wise is of course the traffic simulation, because you have to update that all the time so the animation is smooth. And kind of my back of the envelope calculation for that is, in my prototype for traffic simulation I had 50,000 cars going at the same time, and it still was kind of fluid. And I have this data point that says, like, in a big city during rush hour, so the moment where there's the most cars on the road, the number of cars is around 10% of the city's population. So 50,000 cars at the same time simulated would already be a city with like population of 500,000 people. But keep in mind that this was only the prototype, lots of potential for optimization there still, and so my hope is to get into the millions for population size, but I can't sorry, I got distracted there. I can't give you any detailed numbers there because I would just have to see. Do you have any plans for game music? Yes, I do. I already have 2 musicians on board, and in the last couple of update videos the background music that I used was actually the tracks that they're already creating, and yeah, I really like it so far. Actually, now that you mention it, I noticed that my nice background music stopped playing, so let's maybe find something else. Hold on, let me find some new music for us to listen to. Again, the volume of this other music might be a little bit different, so if it's too loud over my talking, let me know. Will we have to link roads to the edge like XL or SimCity? Yes, for the neighboring cities. Will natural features contribute to tourism? Yes, they will. And this would be also something that makes maps really unique, so they not just the terrain looks different, but actually kind of the things that are interesting for tourists will change the way your city develops. Will it be possible to update roads without demolishing existing buildings? Yes, it will be possible, and the way I want to implement that is that buildings, like of course their lot goes right up to the street, but they won't be destroyed if you add a new lane to that road that just goes over their garden, for example. So their lot will just be reduced in size, but the building will stay, and this will allow you to increase, to easily increase road sizes in like low density areas. In higher density areas you will have to destroy buildings, but that's kind of how it works in real life too. So you will have to kind of plan ahead during low density stages where you want big streets to be later. Will bicycle paths have their own infrastructure? I guess it depends on the player, like how extensively they use them. Will it ever be possible to get a non-square or non-rectangular map? Well, my idea there is just make the map so big that the shape of it doesn't really matter. Also, the terrain will probably work like the zones. I showed that earlier. The zones actually, they're not this one big map for the whole city, but actually there are lots of tiny maps that are kind of tiled, and when you draw outside an existing map it will create a new map into infinity. So for example, zoning information can be as big as you want it to be, and terrain will be the same. Maybe if you draw out, just a new block of terrain will be generated, kind of like in Minecraft. Ping 1000, what do you mean with can I set a procedural generation rule to a certain area? What about entertainment stadiums as such? Will they both be procedural too? Yes. Are you planning to stream more often? Yes, I do. This is actually great fun and I feel like I'm still somewhat productive. So I guess I will do that more often, maybe like 2 days a week. That would be nice. Will there ever be building style progression with like over time? I guess I won't implement that for the main game, but a mod could add that. So you have different kind of styles in time. So I will just, or like, yeah, around 2000s. Can we see consequences like filthy streets from insufficient waste management or stuff like that? Yes, this is one of my goals to, because I guess one of the main lacking points of, for at least for me, of past city simulation games was lack of feedback. And one nice way to give like visual feedback is exactly stuff like this, like dirty roads, graffiti, and like areas with high criminality, and I want to add as much of that as possible. Are the citizens going to church? I didn't think about that yet. Maybe there will be something like churches. Will there be an Oktoberfest with traffic problems? This kind of ties into tourism, I guess. Something like that would be nice, but I don't know when I will add it. Will mods be compatible with all versions of the game? And you mean like all the different platforms? Yes, because the mods are will also be written completely in JavaScript, so they will work exactly the same way every way. They probably, at least in the beginning where development is really fast, the mods won't be compatible with all their game versions, so modders will have to update their mods often to make them compatible with the newest game version, but as development slows down, that will be necessary less and less. Let me close the window. Will there be schools? Yes. Will there be airports? Yes. Will there be festivals? Maybe. Will there be people? What? Which we can see. Yes, yes, there will be pedestrians. If the map can stretch to tens of tiles, won't it take a while to actually direct? Yes, sure. If new terrain needs to be generated on the fly, this may introduce a little lag, but after that you can use all the area that it has expanded into. Alright, Agnar, let me get a little bit into detail on procedural buildings. So right now, as you can see in the game, building shapes are still pretty basic, but in theory a lot of is possible there. Basically all that you have that determines a building shape is kind of its lot area, and you can use the lot area to create a building footprint inside that. Right now it's just a rectangle inside the lot area, but it could be something way more complicated, like a building with several wings or something. Then you take this footprint and extrude it upwards to create different stories. You can even change the footprint of different stories, so you have like a skyscraper that changes its footprint shape at different heights. And you could then add like decorative elements like windows or pillars or stuff like that. So all of that is possible. I encourage you to kind of get an idea of what the cutting edge of procedural buildings is. Take a look at Esri's City Engine, I think it's called. That should give you a good idea. This is of course like my goal where to get eventually, and first I will make sure that there's like the programming tools. Land values according to natural beauties, yes, that will influence that. How do you want to prevent players from finding a way to make perfect cities? By using optimal placement? Well, just by making, for example, by having stuff like pollution that doesn't allow you to place residential near industrial, and then adding terrain, so you kind of have to get creative with the layout of your city. Of course, on a flat map you almost always have something like an ideal layout, but if there's terrain and terrain features that you will have to build around, that gets more complicated. Another thing, I really want to vary kind of the environment of the city, so it has neighboring cities with different kinds of needs and offers. So each new city that you will start will be in a very different kind of starting state or condition, and you will have to come up with something creative for just these conditions. Any ideas how the mod system will be implemented? Well, I guess the mod systems will just be like JavaScript files. Maybe I will even, I'm pretty sure I will add like a module system. Maybe I will even use NPM modules for the people of you who know what that is, and provide as many hooks in my gameplay code as possible for mods to like call in, do something, and then let the normal game continue. This is kind of the rough idea how I want to implement the mod system. Terrain elevation, yes. Do citizens have a life where they die? Not yet, but that would be nice. Will there be a planning blueprint tool? Yes, something like that would be nice to have eventually, but first I want to focus on just the immediate like click and drag drawing of roads with the help of maybe something like guidelines. But like for really complicated stuff, something like a planning blueprint tool would be nice. The stream just died, I hope just for you. Placing down small trees benches, yes, kind of micro design like that is maybe nice for some players. I think I will just provide like procedural trees and benches and stuff like that, but mods can then allow to manually place them. Change in city policies like in democracy, I guess nothing as complicated as that. I think there will only be like basic ordinances that you can tick or not tick, like in the older sim cities. But again, a mod can maybe add complicated politics. Abandonment system for traffic when someone can't reach their destination. Yes, I already kind of have something like that. That they, like if you delete a road, for example, while they are trying to go somewhere, they will, like their car needs to be reset or something like that. And an more intelligent way to do it would be to reroute the car. I will do something like that soon. Are there any design or code decisions that you've made so far that you regret and cannot change? No. I've of course made lots of mistakes. I've rewritten a lot of code, oftentimes from scratch, and I've even re-implemented complete systems like the road system from scratch, but so far nothing of that has been permanent, of course, which is the kind of nice thing about code, that you can change everything when you want to, so I don't really regret anything so far. Why didn't you use a grid style zoning? Because roads aren't grid based, they are curved roads and that doesn't work together. And also, wouldn't there not exist neighboring cities if a city can stretch to an infinite size? In theory, yes, but I mean, neighboring cities right now are really abstract. They're just those connection points that give you resources and need resources. So you kind of have to use your suspension of disbelief there, I guess, at least so far. Yeah, charts and line graph of your performance as like a city builder would be nice. Have I been following the devlog of Clockwork Empires? Is this Clockwork Empires is this train game, right? Let me know if that I remember that correctly. But I remember like this train game, or like Train Tycoon, which also has procedural buildings which actually look really nice, which is also an inspiration for me. Electric cables and water pipes, no, the player doesn't have to do that, they are just included with roads. Modded ploppable buildings with non-rectangular zone shapes. Yes, you can have like half procedural ploppable buildings, I guess, that can still adapt to the roads, but the building itself will always look the same, so you can have like a mixture of the two. Will there be something like in the underground? Yes, the subway, for example. Will citizens die? Yes, that would be nice. Yes, I'm a terrible person. Automatic road grid construction. Someone asked me that on, I don't know where, in one of the communities. Not soon, maybe just a mod will provide that. Why didn't I go with a grid-based zoning system? Because where I live, cities don't look like grids, and yeah. Well, you need cemeteries. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, cemeteries could just work kind of similar to parks in their influence, like a place where people will go in their free time. Yes, I'm still streaming and I'm still feeling great. I think I will do like, I don't know, 10 more minutes of Q&A, take a little break, like 5 minutes, and then continue coding. Will there be canals? That would be nice. Will there be disasters? Yes. Is the overall vibe aiming for realism or more of a jokey vibe? Well, I would say like a mix of the two. Like the systems, like the simulation, I want to be very realistic. The visual style, as you can see now and as you said, will be like kind of abstract, kind of minimalistic, but still detailed. But I also want there to be a little bit of humor, like for example the funny place names that I asked you to come up with, or I think also the thoughts that individual citizens will have will continue, like funny little stories and stuff like that. So realistic but not completely that serious. Will you be able to have traffic on the wrong side of the road? Yes, that will be possible with a mod. Do I use a VCS? Not yet, but I will use Git soon. Basically as soon as I need multiple builds of the game at the same time for different features, for example. Ah yeah, that game that I thought about was Train Fever. Power plants, there will be power plants. Yeah, I know people don't go to cemeteries for leisure, but if you look at it from a high level, it's kind of true. You could make it that people go more often to the cemetery when more people are getting sick. Yeah, that would be interesting to actually have sort of relatives that care about each other. What sort of effects will airports have? Well, it will increase attractivity for commercial, like a lot. It will give your city tourists. It will give you maybe access to new kinds of resources that you can only get from very far away. When did this name giving thing even happen? Pretty long ago. Let me find the blog post for that. It was like really long ago. Yeah, here it is. And I guess this form still works, right? Let's wait for it to load. Yeah, so if you want to suggest funny building names, you can still do that. Just look at this blog post. Yes, I'm not using any VCS right now, no repro. I know it's crazy, but I didn't need it so far. It's not like I don't like version control. I use it for most of my other code projects, of course, but so far I didn't need it. Let me maybe make it a little brighter in here. Ah, come on. Well, roadworks, temporary lane closing, something like that would be nice. Yes. Do you plan to integrate mods into the base game? Yes. If there are mods that add stuff that I wanted to implement anyways, of course I will integrate them into the base game if they fit like my vision for the game, and I would be very happy if something like that happened. Small scale industries, yeah, would be nice. Please don't make people look scary and ugly. I will try my best. The screaming is coming from the music. It's actually like a live recording of what DJ said. No one is screaming at me. at my dormitory. Are they going to the oceans? Yes. Alright, I feel kind of like the questions slow down a little. Let me take a small break and then we'll be back for some more development. So please stop asking questions, or if you have questions and they have already been answered, you can still ask them and maybe other people will answer for you. So I'll be right back. One more thing, because I think N1313 you worry about that. I have Dropbox as my backup, and this is why I don't needed a remote repo yet. But as soon as I need like actual version control features, I will use Git. Alright, I'm back, and I see that you understand that you made friends with my chair and with my sofa. Do you have names for them yet? We actually have have an account for the chair. That's awesome. Frank Binder, okay. Manfred, I think Manfred is already reserved for Day 9's Rabbit raid. Not everything can be called Manfred. Yeah, I don't know what's causing the blue shadow. It's kind of creepy, right? I don't see it in real life. I think it's a weird glitch with the camera. I think the camera just can't handle like the yellow light coming from my desk light and the blue light, or comparatively blue light coming from outside. Alright, let's actually continue with development. So first let's have a look again at what we managed to do so far. For those of you who didn't see it earlier, basically we started implementing a pollution system, and we can already add pollution manually at some points. We have like this green to brown rendering of the severity of the pollution. So what we could do next is to actually connect this to the procedural building creation, so that actually factory buildings create pollution. Then we could add the behavior for residential buildings to not be created where there is pollution. And finally we can try out some things to render it in a nicer way. Someone earlier said it should be like cloudy and fluffy and maybe even animated, and we can try all of that, and I think that will be enough for today. Maybe I will do another quick Q&A session afterwards. So yeah, that's the plan. I think I will stream for like, how late is it? Maybe 2 more hours, and I think we should be done with all of that by then. So let's get to it. Let's first remove those here, and let's actually find the place in the code where buildings are created. Of course, it's in a file called buildings.js. And here is a function called plan buildings that looks up how much demand there is for different kinds of buildings. So for example, farms or shops or residential or offices or factories. And if the factory demand is high enough, it will try to actually create a factory. And so let's try to add kind of a hook point in there and find a nice place for us to actually add the pollution. So we have this other file called building types. Let's actually open both. So buildings is kind of the generic system that takes care of all buildings. And then in building types we actually have kind of the description of each kind of building. So for example, here we have a factory. There's information about what the smallest lot, how big is the smallest lot is that a factory needs, how much additional area a factory needs for each kind of employee, how many floors buildings usually have, how many floors, like how many additional floors they need per employee, and how many employees factories support, like the minimum amount of employees and the maximum amount of employees. And this here, account for slot demand, basically tells us, okay, we have a certain demand for factories, and now we created this factory, and how much should the demand for factories go down? Here this creates slots are the kind of like rooms inside the building that can accommodate different businesses or households, and here we actually create the number of slots a factory has. For example, a factory could have like 50 slots and consist of 3 independent like workshops that each have like, I don't know, 10 or 20 employees. That's how that works. And somewhere around here we should add, like for each building type we should add a kind of function that for example changes the pollution or something like that. Let me think what would be a nice generic way to do this. We could we could call it something like update environmental influences. And I just like prototype that, and then we'll think about when we call that. So let me think about that. How do we want to do this? Yeah, let's just call it that. And let's make it based on the number of slots the building has. So let's add these for all building types, but let's just have it do nothing. So farms have no, or no, let's just add them where actually something changes. So let's write here what we want to happen. We want to use our pollution system, add pollution. Let me think about that a little more. So if we create a building, yeah, let's just do it this way. Yeah, I guess I can make myself a little smaller here, so you can see a little bit more of the screen, but I think bottom right is still the best. Alright, so for the pollution we will need the actual position of the building, right? So buildings are created around something called seed points. Basically, when you create a road, there are these seed points that are created, and I can even show you that. Where are the building seed points? There they are. Let me uncomment this here. Reload the game and explain to you what seed points are in Citybound. So now I've enabled this kind of debug mode where when I create a road you can see these white dots, and these white dots are potential places for buildings to be created. Now when we zone a specific area, for example with industrial, then I guess now it won't work because I have like incomplete code. It still works. Then one of these seed points is picked at random, and a building lot is expanded from that seed point, and a building is created if it is big enough. And now this building is associated with one of the seed points, I guess like this one. So we can use the seed point as kind of the base location of the building, and use this as the point where we want to add the location. Maybe that's a little bit off because it will always be on the side closest to the road, and maybe actually we want to find something like the center point. But first let's just use the seed point of the building as the place where we want to add the location. I think that's accurate enough for the building. So let's use building position as an input. Let's just have that as an input. Will the building actually link up with the road? Yes. But right now there's no like driveways or anything like that. So we want to add pollution. Look up how we define that. Add the building position. And we will just make the radius and the amount of pollution dependent on how many slots the factory has. So remember again, slots are like maximum number of all employees of all businesses inside the factory. So this is just a very simple measure of the factory, the more pollution it will produce. So let's say the radius is n slots, and you see that factories can have a maximum of 100 slots. So let's say 10 times that. So when we have like a really big factory, the radius of the pollution will be 1 kilometer. Amount of pollution, let's say again that we want full pollution for the biggest factory, less pollution for the smaller ones. So let's just use n slots, divide that by 100. So when we have 100 slots, we have a pollution of exactly 1. Yeah, traffic also makes pollution, but that we won't implement that today. Today we'll just implement pollution from buildings. Metronome, what do you mean it could disappear and reappear when bulldozing? Alright, so now we've kind of decided where we want it to be. We want to include that with the building types. And now here in buildings, when we actually create a building, we will have to make sure that it gets called. So the way this works is, I told you about these seed points. Basically what we do in create building here is we say we want to create a building of a specific building type with a specific size of slots. So what we will do is we will look at all the seed points that are currently there. We will basically find out if the seed point is eligible, like if there's nothing in the way there, we can actually build a building of that size. We try to expand the building lot, and if we get a lot that is big enough, we actually create the building. It gets like an ID, we save which type it is of, we associate it with its seed point which it was created from, we save the shape of its lot, Later we will set how many floors it has, and we will, yeah, this is kind of just empty values, and then here we find the closest road for the building, and if there is a road near enough, we actually create the building. Yes, then we reduce the demand that we had for that building. So if there was a lot of demand for factories, we can now reduce the demand for factories because we basically build one, and we can offer now the room inside the building for businesses that want to move there. And then we decide how many floors the building should have based on these numbers here, and we will use the building generator that lives in another file that will create the actual geometry for the file. So let's say after we create the slots, we want to update our environmental influences, and first we have to see if the building type actually has any environmental influences. So if our building type that we get from up here, if building type update environmental influences, then if it has a function like that, then we call it. And remember, we have to give it the building position. For the building position, we will use the seed point, and we give it the number of slots, and for that we give it the number of slots that we calculated earlier. Yeah, the white dots, I just activated them quickly for you to see the seed points. I will remove them again. Dots will be good to measure things in the game. Yes, there will be different like measuring tools. It should be toggleable. Yes, exactly. Right now I'm just commenting and uncommenting it. Let me actually read Nitronome's question. Yeah, it already works kind of that, Nitronome. So you ask like if the city is huge, you will obviously have a lot of these seed points, and it will drag down performance if you think about all of them constantly. But these seed points are actually intelligent, and they remember if they are inside a specific zone, and even if there are nearby buildings that are blocking the way for bigger buildings. So for example, if there's industrial zone and a seed point but not enough place for a factory, only one time you have to try to build a factory, then it will fail, and the seed point will remember, there's not enough time for the factory here. So in the future the seed point won't even be considered for factories. So that's how I can keep it down. I can keep the seed point checking down even for very big cities, because each one only has to be tried once, and then after that you don't have to worry about it anymore. That's how that works. You say you'd implement one type of building for each density. I don't exactly understand what you mean by that, Conceive. Or Conceive, I don't know how to pronounce your name. It's different zone densities, I guess that's what you mean. And it could be, yeah, I think different densities also means different building types. So a higher density factory, obviously it might look different. It might have a different type of, it might have a higher number of slots. Alright, so in theory I think that should be everything. So let's see if it works. So now if we zone for a factory, we get a factory, yes, and the factory generated pollution, so our system works, awesome. Now obviously we have these annoying, let me remove the black lines from the zoning and the pollution maps, we don't need them anymore, we know that that works. Let's just disable them by uncommenting. like we did earlier. Let me remove those as well. So let's reload and try the same thing again. I won't get off you anytime soon, Black Chair. I'm sorry. That's the life you have chosen to live. Yeah, so factories now create pollution. Let's actually try creating a city with so many inhabitants that we can build 2 factories and see the pollution at 2 different places. I mean, now we also have the difference that the pollution map and the zone map are kind of like exactly on top of each other, so you can't see both of them at the same time, which is kind of unfortunate. We can change that in a second. So let's add some, let's see if we can get enough residential to get demand for factories again. What else do we need? I guess we need shops now. And in the game I'm on top of the resources, so let me put myself here. Come on, did the game just crash? I hope not. No, it still works. Okay. So demand for shops goes down, residences goes up. Obviously we need lots of workers now. So let's do that. Let's add more residential. Yes, it will of course be possible to toggle the resolution map, but right now we just want to get it working, right? Would residential commercial be more space efficient? Yes, I guess so. I mean, it is in real life now. Still loads of demands for just residential. Let's try adding more residential. Also, let me know how well the stream is running during me actually doing stuff in the game. So we still have not enough workers for factory. No, because we don't have enough demands for products. So in order to create demands for products, we actually have to add some agricultural, because they need stuff like, what do you call that in English, like stuff that makes plants grow quicker. What is the word for that? I forgot. Let me know if you know the word. Do roads have to begin from roads always? No, they don't. I can create a road like this. Or do you mean completely freely? Ah, fertilizer, exactly, that's what I meant. Also, I'm stupid and no, it works actually. These are farms, you just can't see it because actually the fields are below our pollution map. Yeah, we will fix that in a second. So let's see, do we have actually more demands for products now? Yes, we have, but we still don't have enough workers, so we can't create more factories. I know the zones are really hard to see now, but let's try to do it anyways. So, come on, more workers, we need factories. Yes, finally we have demand for factory. No, but it went down again because we don't have enough workers, I guess. Add more workers. Yes, we have demands for factories. Will it stay there? No, because... oh no, we have solid demand for factories. So let's try adding a new road that goes out really far. And add some factories way over here, for example. No, don't crash. Yes. Bear with me, game. I don't know why this takes you so long. Please stay alive. Oh, come on. Yes, don't. Yes, it works. So let's zone industrial over here. And there should be a new factory soon with some new pollution. Come on. Or do we need even more workers? I guess we need even more workers. The gaps in zoning, the reason is that the game is really laggy for me now compared to normally. And so when I draw quickly, it kind of doesn't paint in between. This is something that that I can fix easily by just drawing in between, no matter, regardless of lagging. But because I implemented it in a kind of stupid way, it is like that now, that if I draw too quickly it will create gaps. You think the pollution is too widespread? Yeah, but we can change that in a second. I just want to try it out. But come on, finally, why are there no new factories here? It should be able to generate some new factories, and also there. Because maybe it's inside of a curve and the rectangular lot areas kind of don't work with that, so that's actually... now it works. Here's our new factory, and we also have pollution over here. So I think we can say that at least for initial purposes our pollution map works well enough. So what do we want to do next? Let's maybe first fix the rendering so we can actually see both zoning and the pollution map at the same time, and we can also see the building lots again. So let's do that next. Let's close the game. Meanwhile, let me see if there are any new questions. Not really. Well, I'm glad that you're all still here. I guess now it's a little bit more interesting than earlier when we had to get over the initial hard phase of getting started with a new feature. So first of all, let's move the pollution map down a little bit. I think it should be below. So zones are at a Z height of -0.25. Terrain, I think, where is it? Terrain is at a position of -1. So if we put our pollution map at a Z position of 0.5, it should be below zoning but above terrain. Let's see if that works. Awesome that there's still so many people watching. So now we can, does it work? No, not really. Why is that? I can see this one fine, but no. I guess it's still too close to one another. So maybe we will have to, move things further apart. Let's make that like -1, or let's make that -1 and actually make the terrain at this height. See if that works. Alright, so now it doesn't interfere with the lot anymore, but it still interferes with zoning. Yeah, ping 1000, it already works kind of that, because if you remember earlier when we implemented adding pollution to a single point, if there are two sources of pollution very close together, they actually add up. So if you have two factories close to each other, like, their pollution is actually added up. Wouldn't it be easier to change the values through the JS console log? Yes, but you the problem is that, for example, the heights of these different layers, like terrain, zoning, pollution, this gets only, like, the geometry for them only gets created at the start of the game, so it doesn't help if I change the value at runtime, because the geometry won't get recreated. So of course I could implement that would get recreated, but I guess it's fast enough to do it like this. So this still conflicts with zones. Zones are at this, pollution is at this, so let's make this minus 1.5, let's make terrain at minus 2, and let's see what that looks like. Wait, why I'm doing that? Oh, I wanted to do that. I still can't see both at the same time, this is so annoying. Now I can. No, not really. Will pollution be affected by winds? Yes, it will. Agard, please don't ask like generic questions now. Keep your questions for the last Q&A session later. What about? I think I know why this happens. Because if I add this, maybe it works. Please bear with me for a second until I get the order of the layers sorted out. Nope. Come on, this can't be so hard. Why doesn't it work? Because okay, let's not worry about that too much. We don't need to really see pollution and zoning at the same time. Let's actually continue implementing the zoning feature. Let me think. Alright, I will have a very quick bathroom break, and then we can implement that the pollution actually affects residential zoning, for example. So residential buildings won't be created if there's too much pollution. Alright, so see you in a few minutes. Alright, I see that you still haven't decided on what the best chocolate is. How do you think to represent polluted areas in finished city visuals? Yeah, bad soil, poor home stores. Yeah, I guess that will be what it looks like. Parks will suck in pollution? Yes, maybe a little bit, but I don't know if if that's really realistic even. Also, I didn't know my chair would be so annoying. Like when I bought it, I didn't even know like it could chat on Twitch. Right, let's continue. I think what we should actually do is for points where there's no pollution, the pollution map should be transparent. Because now we have these, let me add a factory here. Because now we have these ugly, like, hard corners at the end of tiles, even though there's like no pollution everywhere else. So let's just make the parts where there's no pollution at all completely transparent. So in order to do that, we also have to change float alpha, and this will be, let me think, 0.1. Well, let's say yeah, 0.1 minus pollution. Yeah, just minus pollution. So at the points with highest pollution it is fully opaque, and at the points with no, that doesn't make sense. Alpha equals pollution. The point where there's no pollution, the pollution map is transparent, and at places with highest pollution, the pollution is completely opaque. What font am I using in Sublime Text? Is a font called let me look that up. Preferences. It's called Pragmata Pro, and I'm using the free version of that. That's called Essential Pragmata Pro. You can Google that. It's, in my opinion, the greatest programming font ever. So alright, let's see what our pollution map looks like if we make it partially transparent. Also, can you even hear the music in the background? Because obviously for me it's very, very quiet, so I don't get any feedback with my microphone. Alright, yeah, I guess that looks nice. Now where there's no pollution, the pollution map is actually blank. And where there's high pollution, it looks like it looked before. You don't need to change the color when you're changing the opacity. Well, I kind of want to do both. So we both have a gradient and opacity as well as color. Okay, perfect. So, So let's try to make residential zoning influenced by our pollution map, and for that we will basically do what we did before. We just try to pretend that all the code needed for it already exists, and add here for our building type house, let's add a function that is called something like environmental influences. Okay, and it expects a position, and this function should return true if all the environment factors for this kind of building are okay at that position, and return false if the environmental influences are too bad. So for that we will have to create something in our pollution module, and we call that get pollution. Add a specific positioning, and for that I have to look up how I implemented this tile data texture thing, because it had this function. Where is it? Or how did I do it for zones? It has, because the zoning system has a function called getZoneAdd. Yeah. So let's use that as our inspiration. Get pollution. Let's call it, for consistency, get pollution add. And we first have to find out, yeah, let me think about that. Okay, so we have to find out where that position is in texture coordinates, so in pixel coordinates of our pollution map. So we do it exactly like for the zones on the right here. X, and X will be a pixel position, is use floor for rounding. Let's name that position for consistency as well, like just pause. Position, come on, position X divided by our pollution map resolution, because remember our pollution map has a resolution of 10 meters, so 1 pixel of the resolution map is 10 meters in gain. Position Y divided by pollution map resolution. And now we can find out, we can actually get the tile that the tile of our pollution data texture, where that point lies in. So we call tile data texture get tile for this pixel coordinates if there is a tile there. So if at any time there was pollution added there, we want to look into the data array. If there isn't even a tile yet, that means that the complete tile that this point lies in doesn't have any pollution, so we just return 0 in this case. And in this case we have to find out the pixel position relative to this tile we are in. So texture X is X minus the position of the tile, and this is like min X of the tile. Ty, same, Y minus tile min Y. So now Tx and Ty are the relative pixel positions of pollution inside this tile, and now we can just look that up in the one-dimensional data array of this tile. So this would be Tx plus Ty times the width of one tile in pixels. All right. So now we have get pollution at. Let's uncomment that and just try out this function manually. Like this. And now we can actually use we can actually try that out. Pollution, get pollution at, wait, what does that expect? A vector, right? Yeah. New 3 vector 2. Let's get the pollution at 0, 0. So the pollution at 0, 0 is 197. And I actually forgot one thing. Let me close the window very quickly. So we get back 197 because in our data texture for the pollution we save the pollution severity as values between 0 and 255. But that's kind of an implementation detail, and we don't want the external world to know about that. We just want to give everyone values between 0 and 1. So here where we get the data, where we get the pollution stored at this pixel, we actually divide it by 255 to get a value between 0 and 1. So let's try that. I guess I wouldn't have to do the whole thing again, but whatever. JBates, welcome back. We're now we have implemented that pollution is created for factories, and now we're starting to implement the influence of this pollution on other zones such as residential. Yes, magic numbers, I know, but for the sake of doing this quickly, I will have to use them. So let's try again to pollution, get pollution at the point 0, 0. So now we should get a value between 0 and 1, and we do. So we can now get pollution for basically any point on the map. Here it's 0, here there's a little pollution. So now we don't only see the pollution, but we actually can query it in the code. Alright, so now we can go back to our building type house and implement this function called environmental influences OK. And for residential, that will just be, we just call pollution, get pollution at this position. And let's try to just guess some good starting numbers. Return. So let's say pollution that is bigger than 0. Let's say 4 is unacceptable for residents. And yeah, let's just try how that will turn out. But of course we don't call that yet, so again we have to go back to our create building function and add this as an additional requirement before we actually create the building. So here we try to create the lot, and maybe let's try doing that even before we try creating the lot, because if the pollution is too high, we shouldn't even bother creating a lot. So let's environmental influences. Okay, by default it's just true. Now if our building type has this function, so far only houses have it, then we actually call that and find out if the environmental influences really are okay. And again, we will look it up at the position of our seed point. So now let's add a whole, I mean, this is getting really deeply nested and I should refactor this sometime soon, but for now let's just use it. So now we will only continue if environmental influences are okay. Only then will we do this whole thing. Hi Farfairy, welcome to the stream. We're currently implementing pollution. We already managed to create a pollution map, and we managed that factories create pollution at the point they are created, and right now we are implementing that other zone times won't be created if there's too much pollution. So we tried doing that for residential and just implemented the system needed for that. And yeah, let's see if it actually works. In theory, it should already work. So let's again begin by adding a factory. Come on. Come on, nothing happens, so that means we probably have a bug in the code. Whoa, yes. Let's stop the madness here. We get the same bug message repeated again and again. So building types is not defined. Line 362. 362. What? Oh, there must be a syntax error in my building types file. Where is there a syntax error here? I only added this. So, this should be a colon. How will this work if there's no different wealth levels? Well, there will be different wealth levels. Will weather affect pollution? Yes, it will. Alright. Let's reload. I hope there's no syntax error now anymore. Looks fine, so let's try it out again. By the way, can you hear the fans of my PC in the background? They're like really loud for me. I wonder if you can hear them. Alright, so now we have our pollution, and let's add residential zone and see where buildings get created and where there won't be residential buildings because of pollution. Let's see if it works. Alright, that looks great already. The cars are kind of glitching out, I think, because the factory and the buildings are at exactly the same road, and there's kind of a bug in the system that screws up the pathfinding in that case. I have to handle that case. Alright, but it looks like it actually only created buildings over here, even though there's still lots of demand for buildings. So let's test out our system even more by adding a new, by adding, crap. But we can just delete that line again. By adding a new road, come on, yes. By adding a new road and zoning some more residential over here, and we should again only see residential buildings where the pollution is low enough. Ah, the music stopped, I didn't even notice. I will put on some new music in a second. Now there's actually a dead insect on my screen. So yeah, our system seems to work. As you can see, the buildings stop being created over here where the pollution gets too bad. Which is pretty awesome, I guess. So I will take a small breather, look at what you people are typing. find some new music to listen to. Let's listen to this.
This is the keyboard that all the major themes.
Let's skip ahead a little.
For Twin Peaks. It's an old Fender Rogue.
Yes, let's listen to that. What would happen if there's already houses in an area and you put industries near them? Right now, nothing, because we only consider the pollution for new buildings, so that would be something for the future, something like that buildings will actually get abandoned, but I didn't implement that yet at all. So yeah, exactly, suppose item that can't be abandoned yet. So how about, so it's around 10 PM for me. How about we do some fancy stuff for the rendering of the zones, and then let's call it a day. I will do some more questions and answers, and that will be it. So what would be nice is to, I mean, right now the pollution looks kind of yeah, I know Windows Media Player, usually I use Spotify, but I don't want to stream actually licensed music. That's why I only play like DJ mixes, which is kind of a gray zone, I guess. So right now the pollution map looks very like smooth, but it would be nice if it would look more like cloudy and maybe even a little bit animated. So let's try doing that. So finally we now also have a Blue Sofa account. I'm kind of glad that these are the only two objects that you can see in my room. Yeah, I agree, Auto Time Lord, that gradient is pretty nice. You don't see the point of reference, yeah. Let's actually add something like that in the next step, that we have kind of a clear line where we can't build anymore. See you, Nitronome. Thanks for hanging out. Alright, but let's first try to make it look a little more cloudy. And for that we will just use, let's go to our pollution fragment shader. And let's also open up our zone fragment shader again. Because if you look closely at the zones, let me reload here. I made the zones a little bit fuzzy. So here you can see, I guess I changed the values. Let me, yeah, go here again, change the values to what they used to be. I made the zones a little bit fuzzy to kind of hide the fact that they are basically pixelated. I guess you can still see it, but I think it just looks nice and painterly if the edges aren't like perfectly straight like that, but if they are a little bit fuzzy. And for that I used basically noise to kind of let me actually skip that part in the music, it's like really weird, even though I like it. So let's use the code, the kind of noise that I used for the zones to make them fuzzy, to also make the pollution map a little fuzzy. For that I'm just going to copy all of this noise code that I just got, that I just found. Like this implements simplex noise for the graphics card. We don't have to know how it works, we can just use it. So what this does basically is for a certain position, if we call S noise, for example, let's call it for VUV or texture position, it will generate a random number between -1 and 1, I think. And the thing about this noise is that it's not like completely random, just jittery, but it kind of creates random smooth values that we can use to kind of jitter our lookup positions a little bit. And I guess that sounds really abstract, but we will understand what it does in a second. So let's actually give this like descriptive names. Random X offset. We base that on VUV. And so we kind of use VUV as a seed for this randomness, if you understand what seeds are. Random Y offset. If you don't understand what seeds are, don't worry. VUV, and we will just use backwards ordering of the coordinates to get another offset. And now we will add a factor here. Don't worry too much about what exactly this means. Maybe also 500, yes. And let's also add this here. Plus random X offset, and this should be random Y offset. And make sure that it only changes this a little bit, so let's change that to something like 500 as well. So let's see what that looks like. People are talking about toggleable pollution map. Yes, sure, it should be toggleable, but I'm kind of focusing only on the hard part of this feature here to keep it interesting. Stuff like adding a new UI mode to make it toggleable. Now we don't see anything anymore. I should have expected that. Let's find out where the problem is. So we have a syntax error somewhere. Our shader 139, yeah, because I didn't use. In GLSL you have to be really precise, and always, if you have floating point numbers, give them their 0.0. So at this point it's just my chair and myself are arguing in the chat, I guess. I hope I didn't lose everyone. I hope you're still interested in what I'm doing. Let's see what that looks like. Why can't we see it? Another error. Typo. Where's the typo? Here, VUE. Any other typos? Hopefully not. Still, why? Typo, more typos. This should be capitalized. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit sloppy here, I guess. No arrows this time. At least I hope it stays that way. Come on. And if we look very closely, we can see that you can't see the individual pixels. I don't know if you can even see that in the stream. I guess for you it still looks like a perfect gradient. So why don't we increase the fuzziness? And we can increase the fuzziness by basically jittering up this lookup position even more with our noise values. So let's just be extreme and use like 10 times the jittering. See what that looks like. So now we have like a really jittery really a lot of jitter going on. We have sadly like weird artifacts on the zone borders there. Really nothing much we can do about that. But also the jitter is very fine, so we can make it a little more coarse-grained. I don't know about you, but I really care about such graphical details. I want it to look nice even early on, and I will always take some time to just experiment with that. So what we will have to do here is, I think, just decrease the scaling so our jitter, our random jitter should become more coarse-grained. I don't know if this makes sense for any of you, if any of you have dealt with procedural stuff like this before. So now we have something like this, which looks pretty nice. We can still see the nice gradient, but it looks more random, not actually like perfect data, and I like that. Let me know how you like this visualization of pollution. And maybe after that we can animate it so it looks a little cloudy. That would be fun. We could even do what we call like what is called several octaves of randomness. So right now we only have this coarse randomness, but we can add small fuzzy randomness on top of that. So let's actually do that. So let's call these offset 1 and offset 2, second octave, and let's make this much more fine grade, like 500. And also add fuzzy. Make this like, let's just try values like this. I'm just guessing what might look nice. See what that looks like. So now we should have both coarse-grained and fine-grained. Yeah, you like the first one better. Okay, let's just see what it looks like when we combine them. I guess syntax error again. Where is it? Where is it? Random x offset 1, random y offset 1. So now it should work. Come on. Alright, so now we have like coarse grain. The game froze. No, it's back. We have coarse grain and fine grain. I think that looks pretty nice. Maybe reduce. Hard to say. Maybe reduce. Increase the scaling for the coarse grain, but make it less obvious. So something like, let's divide by 150 here. I do a lot of this just numbers guessing and see what it looks like, because I like to experiment like that. If this is too boring for you, let me know. So I think this looks pretty neat. I think I will keep it like that. It's pretty subtle, and let's now only try to animate it. Sure, I can zoom in. Alright, glad to see that you enjoy this. Yeah, maybe this might be better for water pollution. I mean, we didn't even think about what kind of pollution this is. Yeah, there are rectangle artifacts at the border of tiles. Color should be more gray. Okay, we can do that. Just decrease the saturation when there's more pollution. And for the final thing that we will do in code today, let's actually uniform float. Let's actually animate the whole thing. So we will need to give time to the graphics card, and for that, let me think. We need to go to our pollution.js. We need to add an animate pollution and expects a calendar, which we can get the current time from and use that and we can use that for animating the whole thing. So we have this new, let me add that over here, we have this new uniform. Remember, uniforms are values that we give from the CPU to the GPU, and in the beginning we will just set this to 0, and we then let me think, sorry, we then change the value here. So tile material uniforms time value equals to calendar. Let me look up what that was defined as. Calendar, just calendar.time, or yeah, like get absolute time. Okay, calendar get absolute time. All right. This should do the trick. Now we have to, of course, call this every frame. For that we have to go to start.js, I think. Yes. This only needs to be called animate. So each frame we do calendar take time controls, do pollution animate, and we give it our global calendar. And then we only have to, in our shader, where is it? Pollution fragment shader. We have to incorporate that time plus time. Here we can use maybe like minus time, I don't know, minus time plus time. Let's see what that looks like. I guess we will have to scale the influence of the time. It will just be very noisy and animated now. If it even works. Do we have any errors here? Yes, loads of errors. Tile material is not defined. It should be this .tile material, right? Do we save it as tile material? No. So this .tile material. We will have to keep this like this. By the way, how many viewers do we still have? Did I lose people by just obsessing about these kind of graphics details? I hope not. Let's see if we get any errors. Yes, loads of them. Can I read property uniforms? this tile material. Why? Because okay, we can do this in our init function even. Yeah, we can do this right here. Just reorder stuff. Oops. And it should be fine. Ah, nice. No, nothing works anymore. I guess syntax error. Tile texture is not defined. Why? We will have to do that for each tile. Is that true? I guess so. So we will have to make a list of all materials of all tiles. I'm sorry, that will take a quick moment. Tile materials and add them to the list. Change this. Change this back to tile material, and this is a variable, and this is a list, and we add this tile material, push to the list, tile material, almost done, and then we need to iterate over them for each tile material. Do this, and then it should work in theory. No syntax errors. And can I read this tile materials? Why doesn't this work? Oh, because we're not we will have to do it like this, because our this value gets changed. Not very pretty. I will refactor that soon, but for the sake of getting it done quickly, let's do it like this. Alright, so it works again, but where the animation doesn't work, why is that? We get lots, and we should of course declare the type of the uniform, type float, value 0, reload. Do it again. And so now I don't know how well this encodes, how well you can see this, but it's actually, the noise is actually animating now, both the fine-grained and the coarse-grained noise, pretty quickly. Too quickly, so let's slow down that animation, and I think it looks a little weird. So yeah, exactly, looks like a broken TV. Let's divide time by something like, let's say 100, so it's slower. See what that looks like. Of course we have to add 0.0, I always forget that. This looks kind of awesome. Do you see the smooth, wavy kind of animation going on? Oh, this looks even better than I thought it would. So I think the fine grain structure is still a little bit too strong. I think we can reduce the strength on that and animate that a little bit more. What about animating the hue or saturation? Huh. Actually not a bad idea, so let's try doing that. First let's decrease the influence of the fine grains by just a little bit, maybe by a factor of 2. And let's also influence the hue, or this, let me think about that. Yeah, let's just pollution. Let's decrease that also depending on, I guess, let's do like time minus time, but like some weird values. And divide that by something quite huge, so it only changes a little bit. Let's see what that looks like now. What happens when you build 2 factories? We tried that earlier. The problem is it's really hard to build 2 factories because you will have a worker bottleneck. So you first have to build a whole city around it. So there are enough workers for 2 factories to actually exist. Right, syntax error, where we have to do like 2 of that. Still doesn't work. Why? 1.5. Again, I forgot 1.0. As I said, GLSL is really finicky about stuff like that. Come on. And yeah, this looks pretty nice. So yeah, I actually really like that. As a final thing, let's just raise the coordinate of the pollution tiles like a few meters into the air so it actually looks like clouds. Let's try what that looks like. So let's say it's like maybe 20 meters in the air. Now I'm kind of curious what that looks like. Yeah. But then we will have to do a depth right here, yes. So now we have we have our pollution kind of towering above our city. We almost don't see the buildings anymore. And I don't know if I like that. At least maybe if we decrease the overall opacity, let's see what that looks like. What about eco-friendly factories which do not pollute? Of course that would be possible by just creating a new factory building type that doesn't have the add pollution. So that would be kind of trivial. So let's alpha is pollution times 0.5. Let's make it more transparent in general. Yeah, so now it's kind of transparent. We see it here. I don't know if it's too subtle like this. I mean, if we zoom out really far, we can still see where kind of the epicenter of it is. And if we zoom in close, we have this nice little cloudy details. A little too transparent. It looks very unhealthy, I guess goal achieved. Less transparent. Let's actually try to keep it the same transparency but make the differences in transparency bigger. So let me think. Let's add something like just stupid random numbers again. This is all just a lot of magic numbers. I guess we can't even see that like this. 50, 100, yeah, let's try that. And so what if we do solution times solution and we get a kind of a quadratic? Let's see what it looks like. What is the local time? 20 past 10. Doesn't work. Why? Typo. I guess we're pretty much finished with the feature for today. I will do a little last fixes, but you can already think of some questions for our final Q&A round. So yeah, I kind of like what that looks like now. The animation is pretty strong, I guess. And these edges already are a little noticeable, are still a little noticeable. But I think I'm quite happy with that for today. I will leave it like that. So let's watch this mesmerizing cloud of pollutions while I get another water, and then I will answer some final round of Q&A questions. Yeah. See you in a sec.